want to say thank you to everybody that joined me last night in Big Screen VR, and met a lot of interesting people. We had some great conversations, and thank you for just generally being really cool. And welcome to my channel. I know several of you have opted to subscribe, and thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting everybody and having some great conversations. Even you trolls in there, we had a few trolls, but you did contribute to the conversation, and I welcome you as well. So yeah, if anybody else, if you're not familiar with Big Screen VR, it is a VR app, kind of a chat room. It's actually intended for watching movies, where people there's a lot of VR rooms, movie theater rooms you can go into and watch a movie with people, and it's a fantastic experience. If you just want to chill out and relax and get if you have a VR headset and come in, it's a free application, it's a free service. You don't need to pay anything for it. There are some paid upgrades within it, but yeah, it's mostly meant it's big screen, so it's meant for like watching movies on the big screen. But they do have a variety of rooms in there where people just have chats. You know, there's even classrooms and lecture halls, and I look forward to taking advantage of those and holding some classes in there and some lecture presentations. And so I implore anybody that is interested and has a VR headset, join in. It's always open. There's always something going on in there, and I try to get in 2 to 3 times a week, and I'll sometimes host a room or just join someone else's room. So if you happen to see me on there, you'll probably recognize me. I look very similar. My avatar is the same. In fact, if you go to some of my live streams on my channel, I have done some live streams from Big Screen VR, and so that's my avatar. If you go there and take a look, and I sometimes give demonstrations on how to use AI tools, make music videos and things like that. So yeah, welcome to join, and perhaps we'll meet up there and have some interesting conversations. So one of the things that we talked about one thing I do want to do before we get really started is I wanted to have some music playing during this video. So I'll be using Suno AI. Suno AI is a fantastic application for generating music, and I'm a big fan. In fact, we were making music last night in Big Screen VR. We started taking some of the people's names and throwing them into the songs, and it made it a really nice personable experience and having fun. But right now, let's make a song just to kind of play in the background. I'm a big fan of synthwave music right now, so I'm just gonna play synthwave. I'll make it an instrumental synthwave, jazzy, lo-fi, something like that, and I can just hit create, and now it's going to generate some music. Now, I do pay for this service. I believe you can go on to Suno and make songs for free, but you have a limited amount of credits to make songs, and of course you don't have the rights to use commercial usage rights. But since I pay for the pro plan, and it's not much, I think it's like just under $100 a year, and you can make like 500 songs a month, and on anything you want, and it's really quite interesting. I have a few playlists on there. I've been getting a big kick out of taking lyrics from popular songs and doing covers of them in a different style, particularly like reggae and ska, calypso, very popular songs. And so I have a playlist on Suno. It's public, so if you search for me on Suno, you may be able to find my playlist of songs. And I also post some songs and music videos that I've generated from Suno on my YouTube channel. So meander around my YouTube channel, click around, you'll find some of those, and they're quite fun. So yeah, I'm gonna make a couple songs here. So I'll hit create twice, and we have City Nights and Neon Lights. This is an AI-generated song just right now, just generated. It's an instrumental, so we'll have this playing in the background for our discussion. So one of the topics that came up last night, and it's probably been a topic on a lot of people's minds, and it's been a recent news event, and it's the unaliving. I'll use these terms very I'll be very selective in my terminology. I still am not too comfortable with how YouTube deals with some terms. I've seen other YouTubers and other people tiptoe around some of the more difficult words to say. So unaliving, we'll use that term, of the United Healthcare CEO by the gentleman Luigi Mangioloni. Now, I'm not somebody that normally likes to discuss these sorts of events. I think a lot of the mainstream media events, though important, they often don't have a very tangible impact on my day-to-day life, on how I interact with my family, my friends, and my work. Those things are kind of distractions, and so I don't really like to dive too deep or give it much consideration, other than that's interesting. It's like a story. It's just a story to chit chat about. But having these news stories and events significantly impact. I notice they don't significantly impact my life, or it's very, very rare that they do. I mean, some obvious exceptions was with COVID-19. That was that obviously impacted everybody. So those sorts of things do. But these other things, I have no relation to anybody involved with that. I just was it was an very interesting story. But the topic came up, and something that how it is somewhat it's kind of sparked a bit of interest in me is the motivations behind why Luigi might have done what he did, and how relatable it is. Now, of course, I'm not condoning what he did, but there is an element of empathy that I think many people have for him and his situation. What brought him to do what he did, and I've had to deal with some potentially. I'm not keenly aware of all the details behind it, but I do relate to the frustration that might drive someone to take a rash action against a company like that. There seems to be a disempowerment of individuals when dealing with with an organization, a corporation, a company. There's the systemic barriers that companies put in place. They make very complex bureaucratic systems that make it very difficult for the individual to navigate through, and it makes it very difficult for normal people to institute some type of change that or to stand up for themselves and get what they believe is appropriate and is rightfully theirs when you enter into a financial agreement with a company. And these systemic barriers are I won't say that they're intentionally put in place, that there's not some grand scheme by some CEO or chair people that say, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to create a very complex system that the customer has difficult interacting with. Because I don't believe people are that intelligent. There are some very intelligent people out there, but the massive amount of details that are necessary to implement some of these systemic barriers that a lot of these companies do, it seems so far-reaching that a single individual or a group of individuals would not be capable of intentionally doing this, but they do create a system in which there is an incentive to create these things at various individual levels within a company or corporation or a system. For example, a company may see. I work in training. I create training. I've worked with several companies to create training programs, and in my experience, training is often thought of as a cost to the company. that, oh, we have to train our employees and we have to hire somebody new. It's so expensive to get them trained up. It's very rarely looked at as a investment, which it should be. I firmly believe that training and education is an investment in the future, but a lot of companies look at it as a cost. And so there'll be individuals within a company that are trying to cut costs within their department, HR, training departments, whatever. They're trying to cut these costs. And so they'll cut these training costs and inadequately train the employees that are there to be customer service representatives. And so these inadequately trained customer service representatives create a barrier for individuals, for customers to navigate the systems that they're trying to, that they're paying for, that they've entered a financial agreement. I pay you, let's just take for instance, utility companies or cell phone providers, ISPs, things like that. Those are, I'm not going to go into it's obviously true in healthcare as well, but let's stick with some of the more, the ones that we all kind of deal with on a regular basis. I know I personally may deal with healthcare companies on a regular basis. I do at least a few times a year have to navigate through that system. But I remember several times I've had to navigate through the customer service labyrinth that many companies such as ISPs provide or cell phone companies. And I've run into customer service agents that do not know how to provide service to you. And that creates a barrier for the customer to get what they want done. And it's because they're inadequately trained. But it goes even worse than that. If you're familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect, that's where competence is, or somebody that has a low level of competence, they haven't been trained very well, they may be very well confident in their capabilities despite their lack of confidence. And there's a curve to it. As someone gains more experience, gains competence, their confidence goes down because they realize, oh my gosh, there's much more details here than I originally thought. So their confidence level goes down. But at least initially, their lack of competence often leads to a higher level of confidence. And when customer service agents are not trained correctly, they lack competence. But if they are encouraged or given a lot of positive feedback that they're an important integral part of the organization, they may have a high level of confidence, and that creates a bit of a barrier. Because customers may say, hey, I've been navigating this system. Maybe you have called a customer or called an ISP to try to get something resolved, or your cell phone provider, and you've had to make several calls, talk to various levels of support. And of course, inevitably, you have to make another call and you have to start at the bottom level again. And so you may be able to navigate, but you know what's capable, but you get one of those customer service agents that has been inadequately trained, and they firmly believe that there is nothing that you can do, and they will fight you with it. They'll say, I'm sorry, the system is not allowing me to do what you're asking, or there is no capability within the system to give you what you want. I am unable to process your return or issue a credit. I can only issue a credit in the amount of $25, no more than that. The system won't allow me, and that's all you can ever get. Despite you might have gone through the bureaucracy before, spoke to somebody that can definitely take care of your needs, but that barrier creates it's just a barrier to get things done for the customer, and it degrades the customer's engagement or energy. And a lot of customers may just be like, oh my gosh, this is just not worth my time. You'll spend hours on the phone navigating these ill-trained customer service representatives to get a very minimal amount of of refund or whatever, and it's just not worth your time. There's been times where it's like, hey, I've been wronged by a company. They charged me incorrectly, but I know it just wasn't going to be worth my time. Wasn't going to be worth my time to go through that system and get that small amount of money back. The times I've stood on my morals and be like, no, I am going to do it. It ends up just causing stress for myself and my family, and takes me away from work and the things that are actually creating value in my life. So I think companies have realized that. Not maybe exactly realized it. Like, oh, hey, we do this, it's going to cause this. I think it's more the training departments and the HR departments that are like, hey, we're cutting costs by not training people adequately. And we get a couple complaints, but that's natural. So we're doing well. We're doing well. And so it's not necessarily planned. You know, I'm a big advocate of Hanlon's razor. Don't attribute to malice, which is more easily attributable to stupidity. And so I believe it's just these departments that are being stupid, and it creates and they're incentivized to do that. They're incentivized to not train people correctly to provide adequate customer service, and because then the customer just gives up, and you don't have to provide them the service, and they may not do. Like me, if I get a $25 extra charge on my cell phone bill 1 month, you know, yes, if it's reoccurring, and it's like, yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna jump on this one, but it was just a one-time $25 charge. I may make an initial phone call or try to engage with somebody through a chat, but if I get a barrier like that, I'm like, you know what, I get a hold. It's like, oh, you got a 16-minute hold time. Your call is important to us. You know, it's like, no, that's 16 minutes plus the time I have to explain it, and the risk that I might just get hung up on, or that it won't lead to anything. Looking into maybe an hour's worth of my time, and it may not be worth that $25 of my time to do that. For some people, it might. And sometimes it's me if I'm not doing anything. Sometimes I want to get mad at somebody and engage with someone, so I may do that. Which I don't think. And here's another issue that the customer service agents, it's not really their fault. So you are interacting with somebody that is just they think they're doing the right thing, and they're giving you every single possibility option, but there's nothing else they can do. And you might be fighting and getting mad at them when it's like a Game of Thrones sort of thing, you know. The managers, the higher ups, are putting the peons, the low paid people into these positions to fight with the customers, and they're just like, yeah, I think that's an obstacle right there. It's an obstacle right now. Now, I think, you know, the incentive, you know, traditionally customer dissatisfaction was a very negative thing for a company. You know, you don't want to have dissatisfied customers because then they'll go to your competitor. But that has kind of changed recently. You know, there's vendor lock-in. You know, I'm not an Apple fanboy, but I do live in the Apple ecosphere for many things. I have an iPhone. I have my family has iPhones, and so I'm kind of stuck in this ecosphere of Apple. And if I were to change because of a dissatisfactory experience I had, that has a significant impact on me. And so there is no longer an incentive for companies to provide adequate customer service because they know that you have vendor lock-in. And so that disempowers the individual right there as well. Scalable customer service can also impact. You know, they don't necessarily care about the individual. They're looking at the masses, the group, and the grander population is who they're trying to cater to. They're not looking. They can deal with individuals that they have little impact. You know, I work with there's a couple of computer programs that I use for my instructional design, and there are features in them, some softwares. There are features in them. It's wacky on why these software features are not here, and people have been commenting about it in chat threads. Why isn't this feature here? Why isn't this feature here? And for over 10 years, a very simple feature. It's like one thing I use is a style copy and paste. You know how you could do Control-C, Control-V to copy and paste, but you can also do style copy and paste, where you have like a font style, typeface, whatever. You can copy that style and paste it across the board, and there are sometimes applications that don't have that capability, and I see that people have asked for it and for many years, but the company never does anything about that because they've got their priorities in other places. And so those little your one gripe is not going to matter at all. So it's disempowering the individual that way. overall, these things have a very minimal impact. These complaints, they have a very minimal impact on the bottom line of the company. And so they, let me make sure, let's get some more music playing here. They have a very minimal impact on the company, and so they'll continue. They'll continue to do that, or they won't even notice it. It doesn't hit their pocketbooks, so they're not going to change anything. That's the whole thing. You're not going to institute change if there's no problem. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if they don't notice that it's broken, then they're not going to fix it. So all these things disempower the individual, and this brings us back around to how somebody like Luigi Mangiolone might take the actions that he did, particularly when the stakes are high. When you have something that's related to your life and well-being. Something like a cell phone provider may not institute this sort of rash reaction. Maybe it will eventually. I hope not. But this level of disempowerment of the individual could lead, and looks like it has led, to the individual lashing out, getting some power in some way, and it could be through these sorts of means, and that's kind of scary. It's almost like the companies, I would advocate that they be mindful of that. When you have a system that disempowers your customers, there's a critical mass point that they may not stand for it anymore. And I hope that doesn't come, but if you don't leave them with any other option, what else do they have? So that's something that just it was something we came up in a conversation last night in Big Screen, and I started thinking about how that relates to training, because I see this all the time in the companies that I've worked for, and how costs are cut in training and how that creates an incentivized barrier. And the people that are cutting the costs in training, they're getting pat on the back awards because they're cutting costs. That helps the company, So and then it helps them on the other end because the customers get upset, and it doesn't and they don't push it, and they don't have to issue the refunds. They don't have to give as much support because the customer's like, oh, I don't want to deal with the customer support there, and then it doesn't ultimately affect their bottom line because the customers are locked in, almost a monopoly. They're the ISPs. I don't have much choice on ISPs in my area. I have a few, but they're all bad. And the thing was for cell phone providers, they lock you into a 2-year, 3-year, not a contract. They say, oh, no contracts, but hey, you got this fancy new phone that you have to pay off over the next 4 years, which I don't recommend doing. Try not to do that. Try to bring your own device or pay for it outright so you're not locked in. I'm currently locked in with some Apple Watches that I got for my kids, and locked in for a little bit longer, another year. I feel like I should just pay that off so I don't have to feel like I'm locked into my cell phone provider. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I don't have any solutions right now. Maybe I'll and I'd actually like to hear from you. What kind of solutions can be employed that companies could do to empower customers that makes it so that they're still financially viable? Because I understand companies, they need to make money. And if you are providing an extensive amount of customer support, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. And if you're shooting yourself on your foot, your competitor isn't, they're going to succeed over you. And that's scary. They're kind of stuck as well. We're kind of stuck in the system of competition. It's kind of like there's a great video, I think, by Veritasium, where he's looking at trees in the woods, and how trees they expend a lot of energy to grow very, very tall and have to push water all the way up, and it's because they're competing with one another when it should be mutually beneficial for them to all not be as high, because then they don't have to expend as much energy. But since they all want to try to get a little bit more of an edge over the tree next to them and getting that sunlight, they go higher and higher to a point where they can't go anymore. And that's very similar to what we have with a lot of companies. They're like, oh, we have to cut costs, we have to make more money, we have to be able to do this, because if we don't, then another company is going to do that, and they're going to buy us out, and we won't be around. Evolution almost, So difficult situation. I don't know if there's a solution right now, but interesting to think about, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Yeah. So take care. Have a good night. I'll see you next time.